Hey, I'm Jay from Clearhouse. Today we're going to be talking about one of the most important and misunderstood topics in Canadian real estate right now, the 2026 rental market. Over the past year, rents have softened, vacancies have climbed, and the conversation has shifted from we don't have enough rentals to why is demand suddenly slowing down. And here's the thing, none of this is random. There are clear structural reasons behind what's happening. And once you understand them, you'll see why 2026 and 2027 are shaping up to be very different years for the rental market. By the end of this video, you'll understand why rental demand is slowing, why population growth is dropping faster than expected, why supply is still rising, and why Toronto is the most exposed market. Let's get into it. Before we get into rents, vacancies, or supply, we need to start with the biggest thing driving the rental market in Canada right now, population growth. Over the past few years, the rental market has been pushed by a huge wave of newcomers, especially temporary residents. These aren't permanent residents or citizens, they're international students, people on work permits, folks who have both student and work permits, and asylum claimants. And the important thing to understand is that temporary residents are renters. They're not buying homes, especially with a foreign buyer ban in place. So when this group grows, rental demand jumps, and when it slows down, rental demand is dropping. And from 2021 to 2024, this group grew faster than anything we've seen in a long time. Canada added about 1.7 million non-permanent residents. At one point, we were adding around 800,000 renters in a single year. That's why rents shot up. That's why vacancies hit record lows. And that's why developers rushed to build more rental buildings. It wasn't a mystery. The demand was real. It was intense. But here's a part that most people didn't notice. This group also leaves quickly. Every year, hundreds of thousands of people go home when their visas expire. In normal times, the number of people coming in and the number of people leaving are pretty balanced. But when the government tightens the number of people allowed in, even a little, that total number drops fast. And that's exactly what happened. The federal government is now projecting something we've basically never seen before. Population growth in 2026 and 2027 is expected to dip slightly below zero. Not slow down, not flatten, actually go a bit negative. And that's a major shift. And it's something the rental market hasn't had to deal with in decades. There are two main reasons for this. First, the government tightened temporary resident intake, study permits were capped, work permits became harder to get, asylum claims are being reviewed more closely now. People are leaving when their visas expire, but fewer people are coming in. So the total number is falling. And because temporary residents make up such a big share of renters, this hits the rental market directly. Second, permanent residency doesn't grow the population the way people think. Canada gives out around 400,000 permanent residencies a year, but most of these go to people who are already living here on temporary permits. So when they become permanent residents, the population actually doesn't increase. We're just changing their status. There are enough temporary residents in Canada right now to fill PR targets for the next 7 years without adding a single new person. So that's a big part of why population growth is slowing so sharply. When you put all of this together, the picture becomes pretty clear. Rental demand is dropping, and it's likely to keep dropping for the next year and a half to 2 years. This isn't a crash. It's the market settling down from a few very intense years. But the slowdown hits rentals much harder than home ownership. Permanent residents, the people who buy homes, are still growing. Temporary residents, the people who rent, are shrinking. So even if the overall population stays flat, the mix of people matters. Home ownership demand is holding steady. Rental demand is not. Now, let's talk about supply, because this is where things get even more interesting. Over the past few years, developers shifted heavily into purpose-built rentals. Condo investors stepped back, interest rates went up, and rental buildings suddenly look like the safer bet. Today across Canada, we're seeing more rental construction than ever before, a big wave of condo units that will soon hit the rental market, and a slowdown in single-family homes. Across the country, rental buildings under construction represent some of the biggest increases we've seen in decades. Around 14% growth in Toronto, strong growth in BC, Alberta, and Atlantic Canada, and about 7% in Ontario overall. These aren't just ideas or permits, these are real buildings that are already going up. They're coming to the market no matter what. Even if demand slows, these units are still going to be delivered. And condos will add even more rental supply. Even though fewer condos are starting construction now, we still have 4 to 6 quarters of completions coming. Historically, at least half of new condos end up as rentals. So when you combine new rental buildings with new condo rentals, the GTA's rental supply is set to grow by around 9% over the next couple of years. In a normal market, that's fine. In a slowing market, it's a challenge. When you zoom into the GTA, the imbalance becomes even clearer. Toronto is the most exposed part of the region. The city alone is on track to see rental supply grow by about 14%, the highest in the GTA. And even though Toronto has a strong job market, it's tough for any city to absorb that much new supply when population growth is slowing at the same time. It creates a situation where the market simply can't keep up with the amount of product coming online. The suburbs are in a different spot. Cities like Mississauga, Brampton, and Vaughan, and Markham as well are seeing much smaller increases in rental supply. These areas might see some softness, but nothing like downtown Toronto. Their pipelines are smaller, their renters tend to stay longer, and families are still choosing these pockets and areas for space, schools, and transit. So this creates a more balanced market. Across the GTA, though, one thing is unavoidable. Vacancies are going up. When supply rises and demand slows, that's what happens. We're already seeing the signs. Incentives are back, free months of rent are showing up again, landlords are negotiating, new buildings, the ones that used to fill up instantly are now offering promotions just to stay competitive. Now, this doesn't mean rents are going to fall off a cliff. It just means that the wild rent increases we saw between 2021 and 2023 are over. The market is settling down. Instead of big jumps, we're moving into a period where rents flatten, they dip slightly, or grow slowly. So for renters, that's a relief. For developers and investors, it means strategy matters more than ever. If you're a developer, the next 18 to 24 months are crucial. You need to revisit your rental assumptions. You can't underwrite based on 2022 or 2023. You need to plan for higher vacancies, softer rent growth, and the possibility of offering incentives. If your project only works in a hot rental market, it doesn't really work. You also need to understand your specific submarket. Downtown Toronto is oversupplied. Transit-oriented suburbs are more balanced. Low-rise areas are still tight. Your strategy has to match your location. A one-size-fits-all approach won't work in this environment. You may also need to rethink your unit mix. Studios and small one-bedrooms are the most oversupplied right now. Larger units, especially 2 and 3 bedrooms, are seeing stronger demand because more families are renting. If your building is heavy on micro units, you may need to adjust. And in a competitive market, standing out matters. Better layouts, more storage, work from home spaces, pet-friendly policies, and thoughtful amenities can make a big difference. Renters have more options now and they're comparing buildings more carefully. And finally, some developers may need to reconsider whether their project should be a condo or a rental. The math has changed. You need to evaluate both options using today's numbers, not yesterday's assumptions. For investors, the next couple of years require more discipline. Cash flow will be tighter, vacancies will be higher, rent growth will be slower, but this isn't a bad time to invest. It's just a time to be smart. Focus on quality. Look for strong transit access, neighborhoods with limited new supply, and low-rise or townhome rentals that attract long-term tenants. Pay attention to layout, storage, and renovation potential, things that renters actually care about. And let me be clear, this is not the market where you buy the smallest unit in the tallest tower and hope appreciation is going to save you. It's the market where fundamentals matter. The investors who do well in this environment are the ones who buy thoughtfully, negotiate well, and choose properties that will stay desirable even if the rental market softens. And here's the twist. While the next couple of years will be challenging, the long-term outlook is very strong. We're heading into a period where new housing supply is going to drop sharply, condo starts have fallen, single-family starts are at 40-year lows, and rental starts will slow in 26 and 2027 because developers are already pulling back. By the early 2030s, we'll have very few new homes being completed at the exact same time. Population growth picks back up. That means a tight market, rising rents, and a very different environment from what we're seeing today. Smart developers and investors plan around cycles, not headlines. And the cycle ahead is setting up a long-term opportunity for anyone who positions themselves properly today. So that's the full picture. The rental market isn't crashing, it's correcting. And after years of extreme demand and limited supply, we're finally seeing the other side of the cycle. If you understand the forces at play, population trends, construction pipelines, and the changing mix of newcomers, you can make smarter decisions in 2026. Whether you're a developer planning your next project, an investor looking for opportunities, or someone trying to understand where the market is heading, the key is to stay informed, stay strategic, and think long-term. If you want help analyzing a specific project or the market, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to walk you through the numbers. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.